Marissa, you're very welcome. Marissa James Callaghan. Well, tell us about the names Marissa and James. Where do they come from in your family story?
So my uncle, we could call Jim, but his real name was James Marius Green, and he passed away in the Troubles. He was a black taxi man. They actually got shot while he was working. So yeah, when I was born, my mum named me after him. So it was from James Marius. She got
Oh,
Marissa James.
okay.
Mhm.
Star of the Sea, I think Marissa means.
Does it?
Yeah, apparently so. You like that? Maybe I just made that up. Yeah, I don't think it means Star of the Sea. Um, Before the interview started recording, you were talking about growing up in Divis Flats. Tell us a bit about what shaped your childhood and brought you towards sport as a young girl.
I suppose when I was younger, I just loved. Well, my mum says when I was really young, I started to crawl. All I wanted to do was climb. Always took risks. Always climbing, running around, like jumping off the sofa. Just a kid who had no fear. And we lived in Albert Terrace, which was like a smaller set of flats in front of the St. Peter's Cathedral. And just every day we were just out playing together. As there was lots of young people the same age as me, and we were just always constantly out playing in the ramps of the flats. And we loved the skipping, the swings. We always had the swings. We had the footballs out, like rounders. We played cribby, like you name it. We were just always running around playing as young kids. So I suppose at a very early age, I just loved sport and loved being around people and loved, just running around.
So a lot of street games that maybe you don't see children getting the chance to do that in the same way anymore. How did football emerge from that play in childhood?
Yeah, so I suppose one memory I always kind of talk about, and I think this is where my love for football was really ignited. We moved house. We actually moved the back of the chapel. All the new houses started to get built, and I remember sitting in my living room, and I was looking out the window, and there was my neighbour next door. Didn't know them, but she was outside like kicking the ball against the wall, and I remember going, I want to go out and ask her, can I play? But it was like, obviously you're really nervous. You're a young girl wanting to spark up a friendship, I suppose. So got the courage up, went out to her. Her name was Roseanne. She had a twin sister, Jeannie, as well, and I asked her to play. And I suppose that was the beginning of my love for football, and both of us became best friends. It was a game that the whole street started to play. We had some cracking male footballers in the street too, and all the girls loved to play it. So it was just something that we played constantly. St. Congal School was at the top of my street, and in the car park, we used to go in there and play matches all the time. And there was also Divis Community Centre around the corner, and at the time, again, they had a big car parking space. We were able to go and draw our nets or put the jumpers down and set up matches. So, yeah, I suppose once I moved house and sparked up that relationship with people in the street, and especially Roseanne, because her brother Kieran was a brilliant footballer, and he taught me so much. He taught me so much, and then obviously playing in the street taught me so much. So,
Were you at that stage getting your reputation as a girl who could hold her own against the young lads you were playing with?
yeah, like what you used to call back then was a tomboy. So anyone who loved sport and was called a tomboy, and I embraced that. I always found I was most confident whenever I was playing sport, and I was good at it, which meant you got a lot of respect, especially in the street. Um, I remember one time playing in the actual chapel. I was playing against a kid my age. His name was Kieran. We were playing a 1v1, and my friend Jeannie was in nets, and I remember beating him, and he came over to me and he gave me this massive boot, and he actually sprained my ankle because he was so frustrated that a girl beat him in it.
Yeah.
And I used to be so proud whenever we were out there beating the boys. But yeah, it was, I suppose you got so much respect in terms of, because I was good at the game, and we just had a laugh. We just had so much fun.
So it sounds like that early football was all informal in car parks. And you were born in 85?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think the old Divis Flats, the demolition began the year before and took about 10 years. Do you have any other memories of the physical environment that you grew up in?
Yeah, well, we used to go and hang about in the flats that were all land derelict, and with those flats getting knocked down, it meant the other side there was new houses getting built. So we did spend a lot of our childhood running around those building sites, getting in and out of the brand new houses, and um, I mean, it was harmless, it was fun, but we did do a lot of dangerous climbing, um, and yeah, I remember we used to play this game called Follow the Leader, and we used to just climb everywhere. We ended up on the top of some Congall school at one stage, and we have a credit union over at Ross Road, and we ended up on the top of that credit union sliding down roofs. So my mum probably doesn't even know this, but yeah, I mean, it was all in the vicinity of where we live. It was all close by, but we were just always wanting to, I suppose, do the next craziest thing. And I actually remember in the flat, so at the very top you had like balconies,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this balcony, and then underneath you had like the next one. And I had a pair of rollerblades on and decided it'd be a great idea to drop off one balcony onto the next with my rollerblades on. And I remember my legs gave way and I whacked my chin on the ground. And I was leaving home, and I ended up having to go up to the hospital. It near cracked my skull open because of the high. No, we were just mad. We used to jump off these really high walls just to see who could do it. And another memory was we used to play like two man hunt or whatever, or jump the backs, follow the leader, and used to jump everyone's back and get chased. Same thing again. Went to jump on one of the walls and lost my grip. Whacked my chin again.
Again.
Um, but yeah, we definitely were. We just loved the playing experience, and we were very brave in terms of what we done.
So there's a kind of there's a freedom that you're describing.
Yeah, yeah.
I read an interview where you were talking about your school days, and I know you've completed a degree at Ulster University, and you went to America to study as well.
Mhm.
But I think in an interview that I read, you said you didn't really enjoy school, or you felt that you were academically and at an early age you just couldn't connect with the courses you were doing.
Yeah, like I mean, throughout school, I was really lucky to have really good teachers and really good classmates. But it just wasn't something that, not that it didn't interest me, but I mean, as young as primary school, I was just real laid back about it all. So I'd done enough to get by in school. So whenever I went into the secondary school as well, loved the sports, loved my classmates. Majority of my teachers were brilliant. I went to St. Peter's Primary School and then into St. Oasis. So I did love my time in school, but in terms of being a student, I just done enough to get by. And I remember my GCSEs, I passed all that I needed to pass, and got my A in my PE because I love sport, and I love PE, but everything else I kind of just done enough to get my passes what I needed. But then I went into my A level years, and something was different. I suppose all my classmates were split up. Some left, some was in different courses, and I left at the end of lower sixth because it just didn't engage me anymore.
Okay, and by that stage you were being recognised as a footballer, because I think you played for Northern Ireland under-15 tournament. Ian Stewart was the manager. What was the pivot from being a street footballer into playing organised women's football that led to getting into underage international football?
So I didn't play for a club until I was 13. Before then, the only competitive football I played was five-a-side tournament in Maysfield every year, and it was our youth leader, Marty Foyle, who used to bring us every year to play it. And it's an amazing experience. But from that five-a-side tournament, there was a guy called Mickey Smith, and he was coaching the Newington girls team at the time. So he had approached Marty and says that some of the girls want to come over and play with us. And there was myself, Jeannie, and Roseanne. Jeannie was the goalkeeper, and Roseanne played up top. So the three of us. I remember the first day going to what do you call the leisure centre up in the Abbey Centre.
Valley.
Volley, sorry. So the Volley, so the old Volley pitches. The three of us went up and started to train with Newington girls. So from then, Anne Gourley stepped in, and she became another coach with the girls team, and she was involved in the international setup. So about a year later, we had to go for trials, and I went for trials and got into the under-15 setup. And Ian Stewart was brilliant with us. He was brilliant with that age group, and he coached us at under 15 and under 17.
You were captain in the under 15 tournament, I think.
Yeah, we went to Leicester, and I was captain in that tournament, and we actually won that tournament, but it was against all like club sides, and the final match we got a penalty, which I stepped up to take, and I remember scoring the penalty, and yeah, we ended up winning the tournament, which was massive for us. Like there was a lot of there's about four players. It was from West Belfast, like Martine Parr lived close to me, Louise Irvine. So for us to go and get those experiences within sport, to go and travel to the likes of Leicester, to play for Northern Ireland was massive.
Amazing, yeah. I also read, Marissa, that a reflection you had on that time where you said that tournament helped you realise that being on a football pitch was a safe space for you.
Yeah,
What did you mean by that?
just I suppose when you get to those teenage years, you start to get awkward, don't you? And you're trying to find your way in the world, aren't you? And I think once I found football, and once I found that team within football, I just felt like I was at home. I'd found my people. That's probably the best way I could describe it. I just felt so safe and at home. And at that time as well, I was, you start to struggle with your sexuality and stuff. And whenever I get into the women's game and started to get to play different teams and get to know the game and people within it, I just felt it was a safe space, and I just felt I could be my totally 100% myself. So yeah, I gained a lot of confidence from getting into that environment.
So an acceptance there that maybe you didn't. I don't know. Did you feel you didn't have in other parts of your life?
I suppose being a tomboy that I was, you almost try and fit into different crowds that you just don't fit into. So then you start to question yourself as a young person. So whenever I found football, then I found my crowd that I fitted into. So yeah, it was definitely something that just made me feel like I could be myself, and it was a safe space for me.
Okay. And then as a teenager, you make a decision to go to America on a scholarship.
Yeah, that came into my lap randomly. It was the manager, Trace, her name was, and she was originally from Dublin, but I think from hearsay, she had heard about me as a player, and she came up and she watched me play, and along with another player in my team, Joanne McCarthy. And yeah, she offered us a fully blown 100% scholarship in Alabama and a university called Montevideo. And I said yes without even thinking. And I remember going home to my mum and being like, I get an opportunity to go to America. And she was kind of like, dead on type thing. But it came up really quickly. And I remember getting into the car, going to the airport, and I think it just hit me like a ton of bricks, being like, I'm actually going to America here. Cried the whole way to the airport. But yeah, it was one of the best things I done. I learned so much from it. I stayed for 2 years. I studied kinesiology over there. I stayed for 2 years and come home after the 2 years. And yeah, really grew up. Really, really grew up in terms of my maturity and stuff.
Now, when you came back, you described doing the course, and you went to play for Cliftonville, your beloved Cliftonville.
Mm-hmm.
You've been with them a long, long time.
Yeah.
You brought in a shirt which has special meaning. Could you tell us a bit about the shirt you brought in and why you chose that as a symbol of your career?
Yeah, so I do claim that I've played for the same club my whole career, because even though it was Newington Girls and then Cliftonville, but Newington Girls, we kind of amalgamated, I think that's the word, with Cliftonville when I was 19. And the reason being was the Irish League clubs. I think there was like a rule that they had to have like females to get some sort of funding. And they approached Newington Girls and says, just want to come under our kind of badge and umbrella. So we did. So that was the shift between Newington and then Cliftonville. But yeah, I brought him my treble winning shirt. Do you want me to lift it up?
Please, yes.
So this shirt, it actually says the Irish Cup final, 19th of October 2024. And that year we won the treble. We had an invincible season. and we obviously won the Irish Cup, the League, and the League Cup. But it's not only about the success of that year. It's about all the kind of the I suppose the people I shared the pitch with right from I was 13. It's about the coaches who really inspired me and pushed me to get to the top of the game where I ended up. And it's also about the hard work that I put in from that early age right through, because when I was a young girl, we didn't really have any role models to aspire to, and there was no professional leagues, no professional clubs that we knew of. Football wasn't visible, and there was the Northern Ireland senior team wasn't even established because it kind of stopped for
For a while,
few
a young
years.
while, yeah.
So I play football for the social side of it and for that safe space of how I felt, and was lucky enough to the latter end of my career start to get success. And that was the pinnacle of success, was that year where we won the treble and done the invincible league season. And yeah, so for me it just represents my journey and the people that was really important to me within it.
How many times have you played for Cliftonville? Do you know?
I don't know, unfortunately, the all those stats that
There's terrible researchers in this podcast, so we should know what we know.
yeah. It is
Hundreds of times at this point.
it's unfortunate that I don't know, because I mean I remember it was before Christmas. There was a captain's night, a Cliftonville captain's night, and it was there was four male captains and then myself, and we were trying to raise money for one of the young teams that was going away to Dubai. But Joe Gormley had just scored his 300th goal for the club, and they were talking about it, and I actually made a joke to say I've definitely scored more than Joe, but I've played for the club for a long time, over 20 years. So I'd like to think I have more than 300 goals, but unfortunately, we don't have the data and the stats.
Those stats are out there. When you come back from America and you go into Cliftonville, my sense is then that you played in the domestic league for a few years, and then went into international football in your mid-20s.
Yeah, so whenever I come home from America, it was probably I was going to step away from the game, to be honest, because what was the next stage? It was, I thought in my own head, I'd done everything. I've played international. I played club. I went to America. Like, I'll come home and I'll work or whatever. Didn't last too long because Aunt Gurley was on the phone saying, "Get your ass to training. Like, what are you talking about?" type thing. So it didn't last too long. So whenever I come home, I was doing my course. I was working full time, 20 rooms, and I was also trying to fit in football as well. So I was really busy. And at that stage, Alfie Wiley had became the new women's manager, and we'd set up a women's team. So it was in 2004. And I think I still have the letter of that was sent out to invite me to the trials. But I didn't go until 2010, and that was the first time I was kept as a senior player.
Mm-hmm.
And reason being, at that stage in my life, I was just enjoying working, enjoying playing, and the social side. So it's supposed to make
you were happy with what you had at that point.
I just loved. Yeah, we used to go out every weekend, just into the nightclubs, the pubs, have a laugh, worked hard during the week, and yeah, I was content to where I was. And then it wasn't until I was like, I think it was 26, 27. I was working for a company called Belfast Community Sport Development Network, and I actually had got one of the active community jobs. So I was working as a female football coach, and had to go over to the Irish FA offices to get flyers from Sarah Booth. And whenever I was in the office, Alfie Wiley had put me in, and he was like, because I used to see him around, and I used to be like, I want you in the team type thing, but it was always like a joke, comment.
Yes, yeah.
And anyway, he got me in his office, and he sat me down and almost gave me an ultimatum and says, what age are you now? 26. The World Cup qualifier campaign starting here for Northern Ireland. I want you in the team. I want you to come and be part of it. You're not getting any younger, so like, why would you not take this opportunity? And basically, we had a conversation, and I remember leaving the office being like, he's right. Like, this could be my last opportunity. And anytime I'd seen the women's play, I remember being like, I should be there. Like, I should be there playing. So anyway, it sparked something in me that day, and I remember going home to my partner, and Paula and talking about it, and she was like, "Why would you not?"
Mm.
And we'd just met at the time, and I suppose whenever I had that conversation with her, and she's like, "Why would you not? Like, that'd be amazing." Probably a wee bit of pressing her as well. But yeah, I went to the training on the Sunday and never looked back. It was the best decision ever made.
Well, it's so significant in the way you talk about people like Anne Gourley and Alfie Wiley, the impact that an individual can have on
Yeah.
someone's playing career.
Massively, and I had so many other brilliant coaches throughout my career, like Stevie Graham at the minute. He coaches under 15 um, Northern Ireland team, and I was really lucky to have him as a coach when I was really young, like a 13, 14 age group, because he was really, really good in terms of getting young people to learn the game, the technical and tactical side of it. So I was really lucky to have a coach like him at that young age. And for me, especially being a young girl growing up in West Belfast, without those individuals, I could have had a very, very different life.
Did you imagine when you went into that first training camp at 90 odd caps later, 91 caps later, I mean, over a decade?
Yeah, crazy.
When you went in, did you think about the next stage of your career in terms of just the season in front of you, or was that you started to change the way you thought about yourself as an athlete and a
Yeah,
footballer?
like I just completely flipped. Like I went from like full focus. So, I mean, if I'm going to agree with something, I'll go in,
Okay.
agree wholeheartedly.
So what else changed in your approach then?
It literally was just a click of a switch. So I became
So mindset was part of it.
mindset and just a complete change of lifestyle.
Okay.
Didn't stop like not to stop socializing, obviously, but in terms of like going out at the weekends, stop that. I started to just really fully focus on my strength and conditioning, my nutrition, my sleep, like just every part of being an athlete. I just wanted to fully 100% and
And were you kind of driving and educating yourself on that, or were you getting support with that at that time?
Yeah, well, I mean, Alfie Wiley was the manager at the time, and he was always trying to, look out to see what he could bring into the environment and make it better. And to be honest, I suppose it was probably a bit of both, because we probably didn't have the most professional environment in terms of, if you look at a professional environment now, but we did have support in terms of strength and conditioning, which was something we'd never had. And we had top coaches involved, the likes of like Noel Mitchell and stuff. And we had good facilities that we.
But when you were starting your international career, what you're describing, I think, reflected maybe women's football in general. About 5 years ago, I met Mary Phillip, who was the first black female captain of England, and she told me a story about going to the World Cup in 2007, and I think they had to pay some of the money themselves to go at that time. I mean, it wasn't the Lionesses then or not didn't have the profile or support that they rightly have now, and so you were in that early stage of women's football fighting almost for its place. Is that what it's felt like for you, or is that just someone like me looking back and reinterpreting your history?
Well, we've always had to fight as females in sport, and I wouldn't just say female footballers. I think every female in sports has had to fight at every stage of our careers, and sometimes it was almost like a tick box. So even my experience within Cliftonville, we wore the Cliftonville badge, but we didn't use our facilities. We didn't even have the same kits as them. We actually used to get our own kits from like different suppliers. So although we were Cliftonville, we had no resources or support from the club until probably 10 years with the club, till we kind of went like, enough's enough. The least they could give us as a kit type thing, because we had to buy our own, kits, our own training gear. We had to pay to play. We used to play in mollusk playing fields, or Cherryvale playing fields, which a lot of the times was full of sand, and in terms of facilities. And the same with international too. Like for a long time, Alfie was in charge of the whole setup, which was absolutely crazy. Like he was in charge of the senior team, 19s, 17s, and all the youth below it. So I mean, a man can only do one person can only do so much in terms of getting the best out of the players. So yeah, there were, at different stages, we had to fight. Yeah, we had to fight.
Yeah. Did the players talked a lot about that feeling of inequality at the time to each other?
I suppose at the time we were just happy to have though to be there. Especially because we just started up as a senior team in 2004, and as you say, when it started up, Julie Nelson, Aisha Hutton, Rachel Furness, Sarah McFadden, they were all involved in it, and they had to pay to go to the first ever match or tournament. So when you fast forward to 2010, when I made my debut, same thing was, we were just happy and privileged that we had, I suppose, that we were able to go and represent our country at international level. But as times went on, we, Rachel Furness, Simone McGill, Kim Turner, they started to play in England and become like professional players. And what was the good thing about that was when they were coming back into our environment, they were starting to question, is this an elite environment where we could actually strive as players and be successful? And we started then to have those conversations in terms of, because a lot of the times we did as Northern Ireland, we went out to not get beat. So it meant that we got beat a lot of times. Now we did have some great wins as well, but it just got to a point where we knew the talent that we had in our wee country, and we knew that we could do better. And we just thought if we had the resources and the support from the association, then we could be successful. And it was just through some players having that experience in that of a professional environment and what a real professional environment
was
looks like.
being driven by player experience and player voice.
Basically, yeah.
When you look back to that, the whole area that your career spanned, when do you think, or maybe it hasn't happened, but what other turning point was it that you felt was starting to give women playing football or women in sport here more recognition and resource compared to those early years?
Well, one thing I will say, it was definitely driven by individuals. So like Sarah Booth, she done so much work. She was one of the only females in the Irish FA at the time. And she done so much work to get the senior women's international team up and running. And if it wasn't for her kind of bringing that up and bringing that to service, God knows when the senior women's team would be established. But thankfully we had her, fighting and the back in it, and she was able to get it established in 2024 along with the help of Charlotte Lamont and stuff. And I suppose in my own experience, as I said about Cliftonville, we had the badge, but we weren't really integrated with the club. And it was just the players going and approaching the club and saying, listen, we want to be integrated with the club. We want to be part of the club. And the club, Dirt Lawler was brilliant. He was kind of like, it's almost like they didn't realize that the women weren't integrated, that way. And it wasn't until we actually brought it to their attention, they're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, we can do that. So we started to get kits off the clubs. We started to use the facilities. Now having a 3G surface kind of helped too. And then I suppose the same with Northern Ireland. When the leadership group of players kind of spoke up and says we want support and we want more resources to make sure that we can really develop and compete, the association listen. So
what was the first clear sign as players that you've been listened to? What changed?
Just that communication, being able to sit in a room with the likes of Patrick Nelson and stuff, and sit and have a conversation to say, we believe that we could be competing in the biggest stage, and what we need is kind of resources from you guys and support from you guys to make that happen. And I always talk about our marketing team got Electric Ireland on board as a sponsor for the girls and women's game, and I suppose it kind of all happened at the same time. Whenever Electric Ireland came on board, we were working really hard on our girls and women's strategy as well. So what we wanted to do is trying to get more and more girls involved in the game. So we've got Electric Ireland, who's raising the visibility. We've got billboards all around Northern Ireland. We've got them pushing social media. Then you've got Gail Redmond, who was the women's manager at the time. And what she changed at that time was giving young girls an opportunity to play all year round, like their male counterparts. So, for example, we used to have the young female players used to have 6 weeks in the summer, and that's all they played all year. So what she done, she changed that, where girls got the same, got the same pathway as the boys. So they played from September
Same
right through to June.
competition time.
Same
Yeah.
competition, the same environment. And then us internationally, then we got a new manager in 2019, and he was just specifically, employed to look after the senior women's team. Although at the start it was on a part-time basis, but he was just for
This
the
is Kenny.
Kenny Shane's.
Shane's.
So Kenny Shane's come in 2019. So all the momentum's being built.
Yeah.
And then we, with our success, it just kind of lifted it to another level.
Okay. I mean, I get a sense that part of this is about strong individuals making a difference rather than systems themselves changing first. Because we're on this theme, what's your sense of equity in the women's game now?
I think we have a long way to go in terms of if you're a female, a young female getting into the football, and a young male. In terms of the elite pathway, I think it's the scales are tipped towards males getting a better opportunities than what females do. In terms of the grassroots game, if you're a female and you want to get into the game, there's so much opportunities for you to do that in terms of the young girl who wants to play. We have broadened it around Northern Ireland. There's so much happening in clubs. So I think we're doing an amazing job in terms of giving young girls an opportunity to play the game. Can we improve on getting more females into the coaching side? Yes, we have to try and create pathways for female coaches to make sure that, they're getting an opportunity. Pathways for female referees, females in administration roles as well. So we have a lot to do around that. But in terms of the elite side, I think we have work to do to make sure that both males and females get the same opportunity.
I mean, this fits into an international story. Women in football and Kick It Out in the last 2 years have both produced surveys of women in soccer in the UK, and I think 89% of the women surveyed said that experienced discrimination by men inside the game. And to make matters worse, most of them said no one listened to them when they complained.
Yeah, what's really important is that our male allies are so important. And, I speak about a lot of males in terms of my journey, and those males really supporting like kind of our cause when we communicate it and speak. So male allies are so important. And sometimes it's I suppose subconsciously they don't actually know what a female could bring into their environment. We have I work at the association, and we've run a female football leadership program for over 12 years. And the program's worked really well in terms of empowering females to want to, get into the game in terms of admin roles or coaching roles or whatever else. But they want to go and make a difference within their club environment after our program. But a lot of the times what was happening is the females are going back into the environment, but the environment hasn't changed, and they have. So it's almost like they're finding resistance in terms of getting the male allies to understand how they can help the club grow. So I think male allyship is massive, and there's definitely something around that to make sure that we make it a safe space for females and a shared space for females as well.
Do you feel in your role in football now, Marissa, that you're a leader around these issues, or you have to show leadership around these issues, or that you're really someone who's coaching and developing performance?
Yeah, no, like my passion is football, especially girls and women's football, and I just feel like I need to show leadership in terms of all the different ways we can improve the game. And although I'm, I completed my license last year, and it's something I want to go into in terms of coaching and management, and especially around that performance side, that the top end of the game. But for me, in terms of all the other issues, in terms of getting leaders into sport, getting more females in leadership roles, and yeah, creating role models as well for anyone that wants to get involved in the game. Yeah, I think it's really important that I still speak out and still get seen in terms of speaking about those themes.
Let's go back to play. Let's go back to playing, and your international career. You've brought in a. I don't know how I asked you for memories from 91, a 91 game international career, but you've brought in a very special memento. Will you tell us show us what you've brought in and tell us the story behind this cap?
Yeah, so this is my Euro Cup. We qualified for the European Championship in 22, and which was unbelievable achievement from the squad. But just going back to speaking about, fighting for support and resources. 2019, Kenny Shields came on board as the senior women's manager, and I always speak about this. The first time he came, he met the players. He put the words like trust and integrity on the board, and he gave us this speech and about, basically have trust in him. He believes in us. He's going to make us better players. He's going to make us successful. And I remember every single player walked out of that room like saying, I want to play for him. And at that time we had a lot of players who was involved in the setup, a lot of really, really good players. And obviously you can only select so many for a squad. But yeah, every single player, he just instilled that desire and belief to want to go play for him. So I suppose that's when the qualifying round started, and our first game and his first game in charge was Norway at home. And from September to December we had 2 games against Norway and 2 games against Wales. And we thought at the beginning it was a tough start because it's supposed to give you an idea of how the football world works. So we were in this group and we had Norway, who was, Pat 1. They, according to UEFA, they're like the best team in the group. And then you have Wales, who's kind of the second best. Then you have Belarus, Northern Ireland, and Faroe Islands. So we're all seeded, and for us, we should have came fourth in that group. And the first 4 games were the hardest games because it was the top 2 seeds. So we played Norway twice, got beat 6-0 in both games. But the way we played, there was a change in how we set up and how we played. And the fans were starting to talk about it and starting to, it was just a real
What was the change in the way you were playing?
So as a Northern Ireland team, we always set up to be hard to beat. So it was always kind of 10 men against the wall and keeping our shape and just, playing not to lose. Whereas he completely flipped that. And we played to win. So, I mean, I suppose in football terms, he wanted us to play the game. The ball was on the ground, play it out from the back, be brave on it, create opportunities. And so he worked with the on the ball stuff, which was something that we didn't really work on enough. So yeah, he made us believe that we could do anything. And although we could beat 6-0 in both games, there was a change in terms of how we set up and how we played. And we had Wales as well in those few months. And the away game, which ended up the significant one, we drew 2 each. Actually Hutton scored the equaliser off a set piece. It was our 100th cap as well. And then we drew 0 each at home. So the first 4 games we could beat 2 and we drew 2.
Now let's pause there for a second. You're the captain. You got beaten twice 6-0. Tell me about what you're saying and how you're behaving around the group through those games.
So because it was kind of the first Norway and Wales camp, it was our first competitive camp with Kenny. Although the 6-0 result isn't what we wanted, but the performance was there and the mindset was there and the taking on board what he wanted us to do in terms of in possession was there.
So what are you saying to your team?
I didn't have to say anything to them because we were all in that environment together and we can see the shift. And to be honest, see the that qualifying campaign. It was probably my most favorite time of playing football because everything was on you. All the players there was just we had this new injection of life, and we were just so thankful that we got the opportunity to have Kenny Shields as our manager because he was so good in terms of understanding the game, knowing the game, and interpreting the other team, looking at their weaknesses and finding ways to
Play against them.
to play against them and beat them. And I suppose fast forward in the other games of the campaign, Belarus, Soe, we go down to 10 players. It was a game we had to win. We go down to 10 players because Jackie, our goalkeeper, got sent off. And I was actually in the bathroom at the time. I didn't start the game, but I was in the bathroom at the time. And I heard Jackie coming in and, she was crying and crying. And I initially thought, give away a penalty, like Jackie's off. Went back out. We didn't give away a penalty. It was a free kick. But anyway, we went down to 10 players, demi-fans. We got a corner, demi-fans whipped in the corner and Rachel Furn scored and we beat them 1-0. I remember the significance of that game as well because in the change room after, Norway and Wales were playing and we needed Norway to beat Wales. And at that stage, it was 1-0. I think there was like 20 minutes left of that game. So we're all listening to the game in the change room, just waiting for the final whistle. The final whistle blew and we celebrated like we'd just won the World Cup because it just meant we have a chance here to actually go into a playoff game. So we played Belarus again. We beat them at home, beat them 3-2, really close game. And then we played Faroe Islands and beat them in 6. So that meant we got a playoff position. And honestly, when we got that playoff game, it was at the start of the campaign, it was not even something we were thinking about. But towards the end of the campaign, when we got it across the line, it was unbelievable. It was probably better than what it felt like when we qualified for the Euros because it was just something we could never have dreamt of if you had asked us a couple of years before that. So we got through the playoffs, played Ukraine home and away, and managed to come out on top as well. I remember the away game, the way we set up to try and score against them. It worked twice. The goalkeeper hit the ball long, Fernie knocked it on to Simone, went and scored. So everything that we'd done in the training field leading up that game worked. So we ended up beating them as 2-1 and come home this evening and sealed it with 2 goals from Saf and Dino.
Yeah.
So
first goal. You got the first goal in the.
I got the first goal, which was crazy because I remember actually before the game, everyone kept texting me going, "You're going to score, you're going to score." So it was a real special moment to have my wee son's name on my wrist as well. So yeah, that whole qualifying campaign was just unbelievable in terms of like the highs and lows of where we went with it.
Hang on, let's stay with this goal. And your son's name's written Quinn. It's written on your wrist.
Yeah.
And the goal goes in, and you run towards your teammates.
Yeah.
And take us back to those seconds.
Yeah. So we went in half time. It was still 2-1. So it was 0 each. It was 2-1 in aggregate, but it was 0 each. And at half time.
So it's still tense, like
it's really tense. And to be honest, Ukraine had a lot of the ball, and we were like at some stages we were kind of backs against the wall, and we got a free kick. And I wasn't even going to go into the box for the free kick. And Julie was like, Marissa, get up. And I went up. And it was the most bizarre goal I've ever scored because the ball comes in, I hit it. And then I hit it to myself. So I run onto it, get the ball, and then hit it with my right foot and the net. And if anyone knows me, I'm a dominant left-footed player. So even scoring with my right foot was something. But it was just the most bizarre goal. So went in.
First, let me stop you a second. I watched the goal. You headed over the defender and you stroked it in.
Yeah.
You took it really well.
Natural instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a lovely goal. And then you peel away.
So
give us for people who haven't played sport at your level, give us a sense of that the next few seconds.
It was just it's one of those seconds I just cannot explain. Like it's the shock, the relief, the oh my God, that just went to the back of the net, and I just turned and just with my arms open as I always do when I score and just sprinted into a crowd of teammates. And you could even tell in our celebrations, like I went into the crowd of teammates and cried because it was just the most bizarre, amazing moment ever, like scoring that goal. because I knew then once we scored that, the Ukraine was never coming back. Like, that was us. And then towards the end of the game, you seen the second goal from Nadine Cotwell, and me and Nadine are very close, and so it was so fitting that both
Perfect
of us got those goals.
Yeah, that celebration and the emotion you showed. Um, is that is that type of emotion typical of how you play the game, or are you someone who, I would look, wonder your career, your durability. Are you kind of like a tough? People see you as a tough person.
I'm really competitive. I mean, anyone who's played with me will know that, especially the Cliftonville ones. I'm really competitive. Everything, training, match. I hate to lose. But whenever Kenny came in, I had to work really, really hard to get into his starting team. And I know him coming in made me a better player because I had to look, okay, where can I improve? And a lot of the improvements that I needed to make was the strength and conditioning. I needed to get more stronger and more powerful. And so he made me go another level in terms of, as an athlete. But not only that, the way he was able to. So he was the manager that kind of moved me more into the centre of midfield. So he taught me a lot more in terms of understanding the game and my role. And that Ukraine game as well. To be honest, I don't even know if I would have started that game because Rachel Furness got hurt in the last match. She had broke her foot. And I don't know if I would have started that game at my position if she hadn't have got injured. So like, I was really proud that I'd scored that goal as well for her because, I mean, Fernie was so pinnacle for us that year. She scored so many important goals for us, and for her to miss that playoff, was heartbreaking for her and the whole team, the whole squad. So it was really nice to be able to go and score a goal and get us through.
We'll still would like to come to the tournament itself in this cap, but you're talking about a manager expecting more of you, and at this point you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And you're having to work harder.
Yeah.
The image I have in my head is of this tough, you describe yourself tomboy jumping off walls and Divis flats go on. I can work. I'm not scared. I'll work hard.
No. I was so thankful for him coming in and bring me that next level. And the comments I used to get was, "You're getting better." We say the older you get, you start to. But I was getting better, but it was because of the coaches that I had at the time, the environment I was in at the time, and the players that I played with as well. So yeah, age was never really come into it for me. And I was the fittest I'd ever been whenever we went to those Euros. And as I suppose it was just through having a better environment as well and having that support. And we had some really good staff in terms of the medical staff, our physios, strength and conditioning coaches, everything.
So the cap doesn't just represent the finals themselves in England. It's the whole journey that you're describing through the qualifying.
It represents every young girl that wants to wear the green jersey to believe it's possible, and every young girl who. So when I fast forward back to when I'm a young girl growing up in Divis, I mean, I could never have imagined playing in a European Championship because we didn't have a senior women's team then. So, but fast forward now, a young girl who was watching us at the Euros in Southampton in 22, she now has those role models. So she hopefully will believe whenever I grow up, I'm going to be playing in the European Championship, because that's what we need. We need young girls to believe that they can reach that level. So when they do grow up, our international team will succeed
prosper,
and go a long way. So for me, it's that Euros increase the women's game here over 500%. More young girls started to play the game. So it's the role models that we were household names. We created role models for these young people.
Yeah, I think so.
And not just young people, for females in general and the whole of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and I think the research supports that. I think in England, with the success of LNSs, I think women's soccer in England is the fastest growing participation sport.
Yeah.
In the country.
Yeah. So for me, it's not just my journey. It represents, I suppose, the impact that our team had in the whole of Northern Ireland, especially those young girls and boys, to want to go and play the game.
What's your memories of the tournament itself?
I mean, we were really lucky because we stayed in the same hotel for 2 weeks because our venue was the same for the 3 games. Um, and so we didn't have to move around.
You were in Southampton, St Mary's, yeah.
Southampton, yeah, and I can't even remember what you called the hotel, but the hotel was absolutely amazing, right at the water. The sun, the weather was now amazing for those who wasn't on the pitch at 40 degrees heat, but the weather was brilliant, and it was just a real excitement around it with fans and the players. And no, it was a difficult environment in terms of, we had to go out and perform in the biggest stage, but an environment that we all kind of were so thankful to be in. And I suppose the best memory and the biggest memory I have of the whole of it all, and it's just it was the pinnacle, and I just wish I could put it in a bottle and keep it forever, was the last game against England, where we came off and went over to the fans. And when I tell you, every game that we played in Southampton, we have probably had a few thousand fans in the corner, but every game you heard our fans over all the others. And that England game, I think there was 36,000 that fits in that stadium, and there was like 2,500 Irish fans,
yeah.
and we heard them the whole game. So after the game, we went over and celebrated with them, and that moment was just, the pinnacle for me. Because we were just singing. At one point, Rachel Furness was in the middle, and the whole place was singing "Bernie's on Fire," and it was just a special moment being able to share it with the fans and seeing so many young faces and young families in the crowd as well.
Yeah, and the publicity that came with that was significant.
Yeah,
I think, Marissa, that your captaincy and that team are going to be remembered in the same way as the men's team in 1958 World Cup, 82 World Cup, 86. Completely groundbreaking. 91 caps.
Yeah.
Tell us about how your international career ended.
Yeah, so it was a tough one. I remember being on a podcast a couple of years ago, and someone asked me about my caps and stuff, and I remember getting 50 caps and being like, thinking that was kind of the pinnacle, but it was getting so close to 100. I started to go, okay, my aim is to get 100 before I retire. So retired at 91. Was it what I want to retire on? No. Suppose the end of my international career was the hardest. In 2023, I lost my nephew to suicide, which was a real tough time for not only myself but my family. And we just got a new manager in. Tanya Oxley came in as a new senior manager, and I remember playing Malta in the new year, just shortly after Ren passed away, and I remember being on the pitch but not being on the pitch. And after that camp, I really struggled because I knew it was affecting my football, and it was it was lots of anxiety, and it was just a real tough time. So I remember reaching out and being able to get a sports psychologist to speak to see if I could, because it was coming at the end of my career.
See if you could work things out.
Yeah, because it was coming at the end of my career. I wanted to finish my career on a high, and I knew if I could speak to someone and kind of help me how I'm feeling, that it could get me back on track. So I remember speaking to Des Jennings, who was absolutely amazing. And I remember the first day sitting down with him and just busting out crying because I was feeling all these emotions. But yeah, I had a good conversation with Des, and I had a plan then, what I was kind of going to do to make sure I could get myself back on track in terms of, showing up on the pitch for my team, because I was captain at the time, and I suppose I really struggled with the captaincy as well because of the grief that I was going through, because I needed to focus on me and my family, and I felt like I couldn't lead the same by focusing on the players. So a decision I made at that time was to step down as captain, because I felt like, again, I needed to focus on me, but I felt that the team deserved something else. They needed someone who could kind of take them through this next stage. So I thought it was a really good decision for me and the team to step down as captain. So I met up with the manager and explained that, yeah, it was time for me to step down. I think it'd be better for the team and for myself to just focus and get myself back on track. And she was brilliant. She accepted that, and we moved on. And but then our next few camps, I didn't get any game time, and I suppose it was 3 camps later. I was then completely out of the team. So it was a real tough time for me because I was grieving for my nephew, I was grieving for my family. But then I just lost my spot on
Right.
the international team. So it was difficult. It was really difficult, and I couldn't get my head around why, because I suppose from that Malta game until getting put out of the team, I had found a good, I had found myself again on the pitch, and I started to perform again. And, you know, that season I ended up getting like Ulster Footballer of the Year. I got top goal scorer for Cliftonville. I was assisting in every game. I was scoring in every game. And so I suppose in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, it was a Portugal game, which was, I think it was around kind of May, June. It was the last game I played. And then the next game wasn't until September. So it was kind of like, right, okay, I've got time to get myself back in. So I fully focused on making sure I was performing for club to get myself back into that team. And the next camp came and I was on standby, and the next one came and I was standby, and the next one came, and there was no communication. And I decided I needed to take control of it because it was just getting too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And
It
that's
sound-
when,
it sounds painful.
yeah, it was tough. It was getting very overwhelming. So I decided I would take control, and I thought it was the right time then to retire. And it was tough. It was tough to give to give it up, but everything happens for a reason. And to be honest, that experience, because my experiences leading up to that had been almost like this,
Mm.
whereas that kind of, brought me back to back to reality. And I think I've learned so much from it in terms of when I go into management. I've learned so much in terms of how to treat an individual and how to, so for me, it was something that I know in future that I had the experience to make me the best manager when I go into those roles. So
Yeah, it hurt. It seems it hurt so much because it mattered so much to you.
yeah, it did. You want to have the perfect ending whenever you stop playing, in your career, but it doesn't work like that. And to be honest, even my club, so last year to say, once I stopped playing for Northern Ireland, I knew not long after that I would stop playing for club. And it was tough as well because I was getting older too, and there's young players coming into the squad, and it was amazing to see those young players getting those opportunities too. So it was almost like, oh, you want to be in there, but then there's a young one getting in there, and you wouldn't want to go in and take their space. So it was, yeah, there was lots of things happening. But last year, it was early last year, I decided this is going to be my last season for Cliftonville. I'm going to retire fully, and so we had a great season last year. Really enjoyed it. It just played, just enjoyed the environment, the people, everything about it. So I was having the perfect ending in a red shirt. So we got in the Irish Cup final. We had 4 games left at this stage, and we were on our way to winning the league again. And we played in the Champions League in Kosovo and had a win there. So it was a brilliant year. So anyway, in my head, I'm having this perfect ending. Could win a league, could win an Irish Cup, and the Irish Cup would be my last game. So four games left. We play Linfield at home, and I get a red card. First ever red card in my entire career, as in straight red.
Yeah.
I've had one before, but it was 2 yellows.
Okay.
Plenty of yellows.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, straight red. And once you get a straight red in football, you miss the next 3 games. So my straight red meant I was missing the last 3 games of my career. So yeah, that was a big slap up the face.
Okay.
So initially, whenever I was walking off that pitch, I didn't actually realise that I'm going to miss these next 3 games. But anyway, it after the game, we realised, right, we're missing the next 3 games. And so I put in an appeal to the County Antrim Board, because that's what you do in the women's game. You have to put in an appeal to the County Antrim to get it overturned. So it goes in for appeal, and because it was in for appeal, because it takes so long, I was able to play the game against Lisburn Rangers. So, but I didn't find out I was able to play that game until an hour before the
Before
game.
Okay.
So anyway, goes in, plays that game. Then the next game's Glentoran, which is the last game of the season to see who wins the league.
Yes.
So it's a big league
Big
decider.
game, yeah.
So I know the way it all fell, the appeal, I knew I was playing that game. So I goes into that game so like relieved and delighted to be able to play it. But leading up to the game was so much stress and anxiety because you don't know if you're going to be able to play, you're not going to be able to play. But anyway, we go into that game. They beat us 1-0. Devastated. Nadine Cotwell, my good friend, back post header. It was actually me and her up. She went higher and scored. Now, I will say I was no G off Vicky, but she'll claim the goal. But no, listen, she got the goal. We lose the league. And then the last game's the Irish Cup. And the appeal all comes through, and basically I don't get to say my bit in the appeal process. It's all governance. I'll not go into the long story, but I don't get to play in the Irish Cup final. And I felt so hard done by because I was like, come on, this red card, like surely, someone can look at it and say, like, surely, and you know how it is. Yeah, you just feel so hard done by. But anyway, I missed the Irish Cup final, and it was her on the sideline, and the girls done amazing. We won it. They were playing Linfield, and yeah, we had a good game, won the Irish Cup, and that was me. That was me done. But one thing I have learned in the last couple of years is things never go as you plan. But there's so much learning in what happens in the moments, and for me, I'm thankful for as much it's been such a tough time, and I know it's changed me as a person, and I've lost myself a little bit as well. But in terms of what I've learnt, I think I know one day in the future I'll look back and say that's a reason why that's kind of happened in terms of my football journey.
So let's talk about the photograph you brought in.
Yeah, so this is a photo of me and young Jess, and I suppose this represents a lot of the young people who we have inspired as a team, but individually myself, I've met so many young people in the last couple of years who want to get photos with you, want to get your autograph, and I have went to so many games where my name is on the back of these young people's jerseys, and for me, it's probably I'd just be so proud to see that I'm having that effect on those young people. And as you can see, Jess, you'd think Jess was my daughter. She has the same hair as me. Like, she reminds me of me whenever I was a young girl. And yeah, I met Jess's uncle. I know him from years ago, but he actually sent me a message one Christmas and asked me to send Jess a video. He just said, "Look, I have a niece who loves football, and so she really looks up to you, and will you send her a wee message?" And I sent her a video message, and then I eventually got to meet her, and that was the first game that I got to meet her. And her uncle was there, and I went over and gave her my jersey.
Oh, wow.
And the kid, like, has supported me so much the last couple of years, to the point where when myself and Dami Vance was out of the Northern Ireland team, she done mascot in the next game, and she had a wee bow in her hair, and she had Callaghan down one end, and she had Vance down the other end.
Oh, wow.
And then she had this big sign, "Bring back Vance and Callaghan," So at that young age, she's already known that she has to fight for kind of what she believes in, type thing. But yeah, she just represents, the pride that I feel in terms of, hopefully that, young person who we're going to inspire, hopefully to follow in your footsteps and be the next captain of Northern Ireland, hopefully. So I'll watch her kind of closely to see her.
See how she goes.
Yeah, and she's a fantastic wee footballer as well. So
what are you looking forward to next?
So I'm now part of the coaching team at Cliftonville. Just can't stay away. For a minute I thought it would be a good thing to kind of step away for a while, but yeah, Brendy Lynch, the manager of Cliftonville, went and came to me and asked me that I want to come on board as part of the coaching team, and I've took on the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to this year to see where we can bring the team. We want to obviously be successful again and get back into Europe and in the Champions League, but I'm really excited about the players that we have, especially the young players coming through, because they're so talented, and I hopefully will be able to give them some of my experience and tips just to make them better players and a better team. So I'm excited for the future. And yeah,
International coach in the future?
yes, that's the aim. Hopefully. The aim is to get into the elite side of the game in terms of performance. So we'll see where that goes.
We're really looking forward to how you build on what's been an amazing career so far. Marissa, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.